Welcome guys to the third and final video on this, the hang-on back canister from All Ponds Solutions, the HOB 500. Now I've had this for 12 months. This is the long-term review. We've seen it, we've modified it, and now we are reviewing it. And I thought instead of looking at my face, well, we could just see how much muck this has put up with, because this hasn't been open for at least 6 months. It's a fairly dirty tank with large Corydoras barbatus, a breeding group of cherry barbs, 1,000 shrimp, and even a couple of HK guppies. So yes, we're running sponge. We modified it, and I'll put a link in the video below to the modification video. You can see just how much gunk is in this system. And yes, it was still running. Now, why? Well, when we cut the sponge, we built in some sort of redundancy. If you don't do that and the filter comes completely clogged, you risk burning out the motor. So with some redundancy built in, and even being as clogged as it is, you can see the amount of, well, crap that's coming out of that sponge. The water can still flow and you don't risk damaging the item. Now, when we did the first initial review, we didn't like the media baskets that it was supplied with. And essentially, guys, it comes with no media. So we replaced it with sponge, 3 different grades, 15 PPI, 35 PPI, and then finally, that first one you saw me cleaning, that's 50 PPI. Now, on the initial review, we identified the main issue I have with this design, and that is to access the impeller, you need to undo 2 screws. I've not had to do it yet. It seems to stay relatively clean, mostly due to the fact that the impeller is actually the last point. So when the water enters, it drains through all of your media first, and then is picked up from the bottom here with our PVC pipe, and then returned back to the tank. Now, if you haven't seen the other videos, I highly recommend go and check them out so you know what you're looking at. There's a more in-depth of the actual canister filter itself, and then obviously the modifications. I'll drop links to those videos below. Once you've got it all back together, the best way to get this filter up and running is to fill the canister completely. Now, the reason I say this is I've seen a few reviews that people find this hard to get started or even restart after cleaning. Now, they're not using modified versions like we are, but because it's a hang-on, this cannot prime itself using gravity. So fill it completely and you will avoid all of those problems. I've never had that issue, which you'll see at the end of this video. So a little bit about this, if you haven't heard about it. It is a hang-on back canister filter. It's suitable for tanks with up to a 15mm wide rim because it has little adjustable hang-on hooks. The intake and outtake are highly adjustable. You can see they're easy to move around there. And you do have options. There is a nozzle or a spray bar. Clearly, we went with the spray bar. The flow on this is adjustable on the intake and the outtake. It says it will flow up to 500 litres an hour. I think with the density of sponge that we've put in there, maybe it's not quite that much. And the suggested tank size from APS is 60 to 250 litres. Now, I would not stretch it all the way to 250, certainly not if it is the sole source of filtration. On a 60-litre tank, this would be a powerhouse, but I would say 60 to 125 because the tank we've put it on is 125 litres. There we go. You can see that restarted with no issues whatsoever. What I really love about this is now that after 12 months, I can see that the motor is very, very dependable and it is capable of a huge amount of mechanical filtration, especially after this modification. But it only runs 6 watts of power. All of that sponge, all of that bio capability, all of that mechanical cleaning capability for only 6 watts. Now, we are a fan of keeping things as cheap and as budget friendly as possible. This is a very good alternative to the Eheim Echo Pro external canisters, which they only run 5 watts, but they take up more space. Guys, I genuinely do recommend this. This is a very, very cheap system, and whether you choose to modify it or not, and I highly recommend you do, it is still going to be cheaper than other external canister filters. I think you will be surprised just as much as I am. The All Ponds Solution HOB 500. It's worth a shot.